You're an Austrian soldier invading the Balkans during the Great War, taking cover in your trench, just as everyone else. Something gets into your trench, an amount of grenades that you're not willing to count. You jump to the ground as far as you can, as shrapnel fills the air. Many of your comrades have been hit, and a Serbian jumps into your lines and shouts you to surrender at gunpoint. So you raise your hands as you look at your enemy. Hold up a second, that is a woman! You now have the honor of meeting Milunka Savić, the most decorated female soldier in history. Hey ups, beautiful people, get your boots and steel helmet on, cause we're going to the Balkan trenches with a quick stop on no man's land. The myth says that Savić was born in the battlefield, cause we don't know much about her life before her warmongering shenanigans. But we will assume that she was born in 1888 in the Serbian village of Koprivnica, in a region that is referred to as the greatest concentration of Serbian patriotism, and that at the beginning of the First Balkan War in October of 1912, her brother was severely ill with tuberculosis, and when he received the call papers, well, as far as everyone knew, Milunka Savić joined the army. Freshly cut short hair, regular men's clothes, healthy and buffed. The Balkan League aimed to compose the largest army they could for the Balkans to gain independence from the Ottoman Empire. They amounted for a total of 750,000 men and a bare minimum of one girl. Like a real-life Mulan, 20-something-year-old Milunka had pretended to be her brother for the entirety of the First Balkan War, in a time in which it was illegal for women to fight. Joining the 2nd Infantry Regiment, composing of 16,000 men, the one that would later be called the Iron Regiment, due to their courage. Participating in the chaotic Battle of Kumanovo on the 24th of October, from which she learned how war really works in practice, and then continued to serve during the Second War against Bulgaria. After coming back from 9 military deployments unharmed, on her 10th, she participated in the largest battle of the Second Balkan War, the Battle of Bregalnica. The enemy attacked the forces at the center of the Serbian lines, who happened to be the hard-headed Iron Squadron. Savić figured that breaking havoc in the enemy lines was her duty, for she proceeded to launch an irrational amount of grenades at the charging enemies, granting her a Serbian Medal of Honor. Some sources even say that she did it a total of 10 times. But just like she learned, stuff doesn't go as planned, and she was wounded by enemy shrapnel. The now Corporal Savić was taken to the hospital, shocking the physicians when they discovered that Milun was actually a lady. She was eventually called by her commanding officer at attention, who wasn't going to punish her, but rather transfer her to a nursing unit. But Milunka said that she wasn't willing to serve her country in any other way than as a soldier. The officer said that he will have a think about it and told her the next day. She responded, "I will wait," and stood in place, still at attention, pressuring the officer to come back in just an hour and tell her to return to the Iron Squadron. She would then continue to serve the Serbian army during the First World War, taking part on the Battle of Ser and then in the Battle of Kolubara. And the legend says that in Kolubara, Milunka charged across no man's land in 2 occasions, throwing many grenades into enemy trenches and taking almost 50 wounded enemies as prisoners, solo, until she was wounded by artillery shrapnel. This may or may not be exaggerated, but either way, she served as an improvised shock troop of the Serbian army, and for her bravery, she was awarded the highest honor Serbia could give, the Order of Karađorđe starred with swords. When Serbia was invaded by an outnumbering force from 3 nations and started their great retreat, Milunka registered an extra few reasonable wounds. And in spring of 1916, while the Serbians resupplied, the sleepless Iron Regiment became a legion under the command of the French Army of the Orient. During the Monastir Offensive in fall of 1916, Milunka earned international recognition in the Battle of Cherna Bend against Bulgaria, where she crossed no man's land and threw a metric buckle-load of grenades at the enemy trench, wounding and taking 23 Bulgarians as prisoners, earning a 2nd Star of Karađorđe. this time being confirmed by external sources to be the truth. Who needs a grenade launcher when you have Savić? Am I right? She continued to serve and get wounded in the Macedonian front, now as a non-commissioned officer, one famous for being an extremely accurate shooter and grenadier. In Thessaloniki, a skeptic French officer decided to test her fame, asking her to shoot a bottle of cognac from 40 meters away with a fully loaded pistol, having the other 19 bottles as the prize. It only took one bullet. Still doubtful, he asked her to hit a bottle with a grenade from far away. It only took one grenade. Considering her proficiency, historians affirm that most of the legends about her seem to be most likely true. She earned the Serbian Milošević Medal, the Russian Cross of St. Georgi, the British Order of St. Michael, and the highest French medals, the Légion d'honneur ×2 and the Croix de Guerre, amounting a total of 12 medals and 9 significant wounds. The Iron Regiment had a 50% casualty rate over the 3 wars, a total of 8,000. After the war, France offered Savić a comfortable pension in Paris, but since it would imply leaving her homeland, she said no. She moved to a street in Belgrade that is now called Milunka Savić in her honor, and in the interwar period she willingly embraced anonymity, living relatively unknown, which earned her the title of Lady of the Dark. She worked in multiple odd jobs, married a possibly Bosnian man in 1923, whom she divorced after giving birth to a daughter called Milena. She also adopted 3 orphans, raising them as her own daughters, and became the janitor of the State Mortgage Bank. In the early years of World War II, Savić was an important member of a hospital for the Yugoslav National Liberation Army during the occupation of Serbia, a service that caused her being beaten up in front of her daughters by National Socialist soldiers. If you don't know what that is, my bad, but I don't think I can say the short word to refer to them. A while later, the Serbian Milan Nedić, the leading collaborator of the occupation, invited Savić to a banquet with him and National Socialist officers. She said no, and Nedić had her thrown in the Banjica concentration camp, in which she was meant to be ethnically cleansed alongside other Slavs. Until 10 months later, a camp officer recognized her as a war hero and allowed Savić to come back to her daughters. After the war and the arrival of socialism to power in 1945, she was again recognized as a hero and given a modest pension by the government of Josip Tito, although she would still live in relative poverty, until the half-century war remembrance in the 60s, when she surprised both the veterans and the young with her medals. I did say she was the most decorated female soldier, but I'm sorry. I forgot to say that she is one of the best decorated humans in military history. During the event, her former comrades explained her medals and praised her in front of the others, most of which were less decorated than her, giving her international recognition once again. In 1972, Serbian public pressure after research concluded that her treatment and housing was unacceptable. The Belgrade City Assembly granted her a small apartment. Milunka passed away the 5th of October of 1973 due to a stroke. Since then, great efforts have been made to give her the fame that she deserves. 40 years after her passing, her remains were moved to the Alley of the Greats, deservedly so. Her birth house in Koprivnica was rebuilt and made into a museum. A memorial complex was opened in southwestern Serbia, and multiple statues of her have been built. In 2013, the documentary Milunka Savić, Heroine of the Great War was released, and other cinematic projects about her have been made in the recent years, making her known within the newer generations. She is a source of inspiration for the Serbians and even other people, not only women but also men. She is described as someone who will do anything for their family, as an exemplary soldier, mother, comrade and human being, someone to look up to with love and pride, and the Swedish band Sabaton made a song about her story. I think you're starting to see a pattern here. The song Lady of the Dark, which I definitely recommend, and the channel Yarnhook made an animation as the music video for the song. And that's it. Now you know that female inclusion in media could be made in a way that isn't soulless and generic. Now if you excuse me, I have to run away from the wolves. Ciao!